Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. And yes, I think as Kate had mentioned, please do jump in with questions. Happy to answer as we go. If you'd like to hold them till the end, that's also fine too. Either is okay with me, but don't be shy if you want to ask a question as we go too. So I'm going to do this in two parts. One, I'm just going to walk you through a very quick slide deck that just sort of sets up what this thing is. And then I'll go into the Hungry Genius tool itself and walk you through how it works as well. And again, please ask questions as we go. So, all right. So moving over to the PowerPoint, and again, let me know if this doesn't show up on your screen. I think it's working, but if it doesn't, let me know that too. So, so just quickly, just back ourselves up about, I don't know, 4 years or so. So we had a study called Community Close-Up, which was a collaborative project between Second Harvest, Hunger Free Minnesota, and then Boston Consulting Group. So basically, in this particular study, local communities, agencies were provided with data at that point about missing meals gaps and food insecurity and demographic data and a variety of other data points too, all was meant to be at a neighborhood level. And so the thought was, can we arm agencies and communities with actionable data that's not just at a full county level, but more micro, so that it's tailored to your own particular communities. So so that was kind of just the genesis behind that. So from what was in the toolbox, if you will, at the time, was, as I mentioned, a variety of data that was sort of in very large Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, but also a series of maps at the time was in Google Earth, to be able to map out the data that we had at the time too. So so that was good. We put all that together, and I think we learned a lot from that process. That agency partners saw good value in the data and good value in maps too, but there were some shortcomings. It was just an overwhelming amount of information to understand. It was challenging to tease out, what were the insights, because there was so much volume of information being presented. The mapping program required some software expertise, which most probably didn't have, I would imagine, and just the word complicated came across to us as like, this seems really cool, but it also takes a lot of work to make it useful for us. So bottom line, I think what we learned from that was, like, it was a great start, but to create greater value, we needed to create a better user experience around the data. So that was at least the challenge we were set before us. So as we thought about a 2.0 version of that work, how do you make this more intuitive for users? How do we drive users to the most important insights within the data itself? And then how can we help users or agencies in this case to improve certain decision making, so that it's more tailored to what you're looking to do in your community. So some things that came up were, can users or agencies self-select their service areas on a map? That was something that was requested, and we delivered that for you here in just a minute. And then help us sort of better prioritize, what are the priorities? Are there some potential solutions that you can bring to the table too, as well? So all of that kind of was our sort of key charges and questions that we had to answer as we move forward with the 2.0 version of this. So from there, General Mills was kind enough to give us some money to build that sort of next version of sort of taking the community close-up data, building an analytics engine around this, and I think you all know Sue Gilman. I think she called it a decoder at one point. So I borrowed that language, I think with her permission, to do that. Looking at sort of insights and visualizing data, and then that sort of combination is what Hungry Genius is today, as more of an intelligence product that's in the cloud. So that's kind of where it went. From there, we kind of took a couple different tacks to make the tool useful for you. One is sort of like taking the overwhelming amount of information and bringing it down to a more usable level, so sort of decoding that a little bit. So this was an example of what the 1.0 version looked like, and as you can see, these were census tracts, I think in Woodbury, I believe, and the data sort of provided from that. So this is actually a snapshot of the data. It was actually a lot more than what you see here, and this is only half the census tracts, in the sort of Woodbury area. This kind of just gives you a demonstration of, it's a lot to look at, right? At least in the prior version. And so I think we simplified some of the measurements into both a scoring and a color code system, where we kind of built a scale of just an index of 0 to 100, and red, yellow, green. So this was meant to not so much to sort of label anything in particular in terms of activities that an agency or community might do, more just to focus your attention to say that, if red is school breakfast participation, let's say in your local school district, that might be an area to build a stronger foundation around. Versus other areas, maybe you have great school lunch participation and it's green and it's 90, in terms of a score. That would mean for your decision-making purposes that maybe that's not the area to focus too much attention on unless you're really interested in the last mile there. So that was kind of the thought behind just making things a little simpler to read and to figure out where to focus your attention as a community or an agency too. So that's kind of at least how that was done. And then we also built a few composite scores where we took, for example, what you see here is program participation. So taking the programs that include government programs like SNAP, emergency food system, which all of you are a part of course, and then other programs like WIC or summer food and things like that too, and then building an algorithm and a composite score around that so that you can see kind of overall sort of how well it is, the combination of programs doing together as well. So some agencies have found that useful, others less so, but it is in there as something that you can add to your dashboard, which I'll explain in a sec, should you wish to do that too. So that's that, and then the focus on the most relevant sort of data points here. So kind of per your requests, so we have enabled your ability to self-select your service area too. So the tool you'll see in the sort of upper right-hand corner here, and I'll walk you through this in just a moment, you'll be able to select different types of geographies depending on what's most useful for you. So census tract is as small as you can go, and this is an example of some census tracts. So this is Woodbury, just so you know. I used to live in Woodbury, so that's my sort of focus on that a little bit. But you can do zip codes, which I know are very popular among agencies, and then you can go up to House and State Senate districts if you're interested in legislative implications, counties, cities, congressional districts are as big as they go here too. And there's also a statewide map as well. So all of that, so again, so you can basically just click these areas. I'll show you that in a minute, but you can self-select your service area here. So the next part then is once you select your service area, you're able to sort of build a dashboard of metrics that basically will right-size itself to only the areas that you picked in your service area. So when I picked those areas in Woodbury, the data here only shows those Woodbury census tracts pulled together into your dashboard. So that's helpful. So again, all sort of relevant to your particular community and your particular service area too. So that's all here. It's done in a what's called a widget style. So each of these boxes that you see here are widgets within them. So and you can decide which widgets belong on your dashboard. So that way, and you can also move them around. And so whatever sort of most relevant to you, you can pick that for your particular agency. There's also more detailed pages about the sort of each program, for example. So this is gives you sort of information about sort of SNAP and what's your participation rate and how many meals were distributed. So things like that are all sort of in here, as well as more data points too. And then we also offer a few suggested action steps based on the data points that are here. And again, everything's colored red, yellow, green, so that way you know where to focus your attention as well within the tool itself. Okay. And then, lastly, it also gives, there are also heat maps included within the tool too. So I'll show you how this works as well, but you'll be able to sort of see heat maps in here, and I'll show you kind of how scores will appear on top and things like that. So I'll walk you through that too, but basically there are maps all included within the tool itself too. So. And then you can also place data points on your map. So this is an example, let's say, of clients. I don't think these are actual clients, but these are sort of data points where you can plot people, you can plot food shelves, you can plot whatever you want to, gas stations. I mean, whatever you want to do. And the tool enables you to plot, I think, up to 5 different color points on top of the map as well. All right, so I'll walk you through I'll transition to the tool now and walk you through each of the sort of how it works from logging in and moving through it from there. So just a second here while I switch gears. And take a drink of water at the same time. So, all right, so you start here. It's hungrygenius.com. That's the URL. To get a login from me, if you don't already have one, you just click sign up here, and then you just enter your information, your name, email, you write your own password. I can't see your password, and then your organization and what type of organization are you here. And then it'll send an email to me, and I'll just approve you as a user for the tool itself. So once you have a login, then you can log in at that point, and I'll just log in as myself here. Okay, so when you first log into the tool itself, it takes you to this page of what's your service area. And so to use the tool at all, you have to have some type of service area associated with it. So you can have up to 10 service areas, so that way you're not just typecast into just one service area. So if you want to do multiple types of service areas with, let's say you do White Bear plus Woodbury plus Stillwater, you can do that here, or you can just do Woodbury by itself, or just a section of Woodbury, things like that. So you can have different service areas within the tool that you can keep track of as well. So in this case, I will just create, since most of you are sort of East Metro service area, I will do that, and then I will label it as sort of zip codes. So we'll just go through zip codes as our geography type. So again, you can select whatever geography type you like here. I will select zip codes just to show you an example of what it can do. So we'll create the service area at this point. And then what happens here is, so I've labeled it East Metro. Now you have the point here where it'll blow up a map. These are all zip codes in Minnesota. And basically what you'll do is you'll zoom into whatever area you want to build a service area map for. And then you start selecting each of the areas. So I think this is Woodbury 55125. So as you scroll over your hand, like you can see the zip code number on it. But I'll just sort of pick some of the areas that you all are a part of, I believe, here. So I think this is White Bear correctly. So you can see it from a broader level here, but if you zoom way in, like you can actually see the street names and everything else here too. So this is Lake Elmo, here's Stillwater Boulevard, 34th Street. So so you can zoom in as far as you like, or as macro as you want to. So all interactive, so you can see kind of what it is. So I've just picked a handful here, I think, that are roughly in your particular service areas. And then you can save changes at this point too. So once you've saved the changes, a few, there it is, okay, yeah, rendered there, a few black boxes will appear, so now it's saved your service area. And then you go to your dashboard. So right now the dashboard itself is empty. So what we'll do here is we'll start adding different widgets essentially. within your tool. So so there are lots of widgets, so you can kind of choose what's most important to you. There are a few of the composite scores that I had mentioned here earlier. There's also some need scores in terms of how many missing meals, what's your food insecurity score, and then it goes into different sort of meal programs, how many meals are being provided through SNAP or WIC or other programs as well. And then it gives you also program participation of these particular programs too. So that's all there. And then it also provides a series of demographic data points too. So median household income, how many renters are in your particular area, as if you're a homeowner, you're less likely to be food insecure than if you're a renter. Unemployment is here as well. How many children have single parents are here as well. How many have been born outside the United States, and then different ethnic data points as well. So, so basically, when you go through these, you just kind of, when your mouse scrolls over them, it gives you a little information as to what the score actually is. And then you can actually pick certain ones. So I'll just pick the, food insecurity score. So we'll add that to our dashboard. Let's see, we can do the school lunch score here. We'll just pick a few of these just so you have an idea for what this tool might do. So let's go on.
Jason?
Yes.
So, I'm sorry. So there is a question. Liz is wondering if there's an independent widget or score for each of the components of a composite score. So some of them you kind of group together. Can you look at each kind of score individually as well?
Yeah, great point. So I'm getting to that right now, actually. So great question. So I've added a bunch of these to the dashboard. So you'll come here, and then here's the dashboard, and each one has a score on it, and then has a few select data points. So if you want to look underneath, like, well, kind of what are the data points that make this up? So you click on it, and what'll come up in the more detail section here is a few different things. And I'll walk you through the map in a second, but since you asked, I'll kind of come down here. It gives you more of the actual individual data points that are sort of, that make that score up too. So that's all there, and if you really want to dig further, you can actually export a CSV file, and it'll pull out, I'll just show you some of the data points here, but just a second here while this loads up. But if you wanted to, you can see by zip code each of the data points of food insecure population, missing meals, how many missing meals there are. So all of that is also here as well. So does that answer your question, Liz? Well, assuming she's still on mute, I hope it does.
He wrote back and it says it.
Perfect. So yes, so it's all here if you want to do your own analysis too as well. But yes, all that data, those data points are there. But it's also here on the screen itself, more compiled, so again, more easier to read on the actual screen here. But if you want the nitty-gritty behind every single zip code, that's also available to you here as well. So,
Jason, at this moment too, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions that maybe the group cares about, but I've heard from other people when we've talked about this tool, is just if you might be willing to share or just reiterate kind of where the data is coming from and what year the data is.
Yeah, sure, of course. So, so data comes from a variety of sources based on kind of what the metric is. So the demographic data comes from the American Community Survey. So maybe I should back up. So the data in this tool right now is 2013 data. That's the latest that's in this particular tool. The demographic data is from the American Community Survey. It's the 5-year survey. So that's that. The food insecurity missing meals data is a regression model that our national network Feeding America has done. And so that's where that comes from. And then all of the various programs, for example, all the government programs, they come from each of the state agencies. So like school breakfast comes from the Department of Education, SNAP comes from the Department of Human Services. That's where all of that data came from. And then the emergency food data comes from the food banks. So we pulled the data that you enter in fairly regularly, and that's what's pulled into this too. So, so knowing that there may be some gaps, obviously, in some of that data, but that's just the best we have, and so that's what's being pulled into here, and those are the sources of data that are in here currently. So there's a scheduled update to 2015 data. That's scheduled to start in about a month or so, so that'll happen this spring, and that'll sort of fast forward some of the data to much newer sort of information than 2013. But that's 2013 is what's in the tool currently.
So related to that, and this had, I'm trying to think if we've had this similar conversation before. Liz is wondering if there's a place to list all the sources, because as they're thinking about potentially sharing this information with, their community or donors or things like that, or grants, foundations, I mean, they might be asked for that. And so is there a place on the site, on the tool, where they would be able to kind of have that full list?
Yeah, fair enough. So yes, that's kind of it. So it's not in here currently. It is in the next stage of development that's planned into it. So I think what we're planning to do, and I still have to work this out with our developer, but you have these menus over here. I think we'd like to have one here as sort of the sources here as well. For data points that sort of list sort of where things come from for each of the particular dashboard elements that are there. So yes, something we can add, and if you need something in the meantime, just send me a note. I'm happy to give you a quick list of where the data points come from.
Okay, and it looks like there's one other question. So Liz is wondering, can we find more details on the regression model used for the food insecure data point?
Sure. Yes, I can give you a technical on that. It's a little dense on that too. But yes, I think happy to do that. Definitely. I could also sort of exchange with you separately. Give you a more condensed version of like these are the data points that go into that regression model too, as to how food insecurity is calculated. So and I could bullet point that for you fairly quickly. So happy to go through that with you as well.
Okay, that sounds great. And for those others of you on the line, if that's something also that would be helpful for you to see, just let me know, and Jason can send out to a wider group. Thanks,
Great.
Jason.
Yep, of course. So a couple of points I just want to show to you on the tool itself. So as when you're inside the detail score here, there are maps included within here as well. So right now, and I'll show you how to make this auto zoom to your particular location in a sec, but basically, so I'm going to zoom in into your particular area here. So we'll heat map it for you. You can show the labels of your score. This is the food insecurity score. It'll show right on top of every single area here. And so, but if you want to look at not just a score, but the actual how many people are food insecure, this will show you exactly kind of what that number is for each particular area here too. You can see the food insecurity rate in this case as well. And there's a little bug here, so I'm having to refresh the labels each time, but I'll have that fixed. But it gives you the percentage rate, and I'm sorry I couldn't put a percentage sign here. The mapping software won't let us do that. So 8 means 8%. So that's the best we could do for you, but that's what it means. And then you can see missing meals here too. So all of it's kind of right at your fingertips, so that way you can take a quick look at not just the score, but also some of these other sub-metrics that make up the score itself here too. So hopefully that makes sense. All of that is here. You can make a full screen version of it if you'd like to, if you want to get rid of everything else. So this is nice if you want to make a copy of this and put it into a PowerPoint slide. That's pretty easy to do, and then you can also sort of zoom in accordingly as well to get particular streets or whatever else is of interest to you too. And sorry, sometimes it takes a second for it to render as well. So that's there as well. And then you can also export a picture here too if you'd like, if that's helpful too. Just know when you export a picture, it basically exports just this rectangle here. So if you want the full screen, a bigger version of something, I would suggest you just press the print screen button on your keyboard, and then you can crop it to your delight to whatever you need it for too. So, okay. Great. So the other component I think I wanted to show you here as well is the opportunity to add data points to the map itself too. So that's also available here. So you can click Add Data, or you can go to My Data over here. Both places take you to the same place. But you can add up to 5 different data sets to your maps essentially from here too. So so we'll create a new sort of data set. We'll just say East Metro clients, let's say, and I've created a file for this already too. So actually, so yeah, I'll show you how it's done, and I can walk you through the how it works too. But basically, I just put a sample file in here, and it will upload the data to the map itself. And I will show you. It will then, once it renders, so it will work here in just a sec, I assume. Sorry, it's not usually this slow, but I assume this will render here in just a sec here. There it goes. Okay, perfect. So you can see on here, these are, these aren't real clients, by the way. This is dummy data. I think these are literally gas stations, but basically you can plot points to particular areas that can come onto the map itself, and this may be useful for your type of collaboration as well if you have. And I think I've done a little bit of this for a couple of you in the past, where you have a client database that you can sort of map your clients. We can put them in different colors in here, and that way you can see what your overlap is in terms of service area, and also sort of determine next steps in terms of need and other activities that you might undertake to address that need as well. So that's all here. How do you actually do that? Let me just walk you through that too. So on here you can download a template. So we've created a template for you to make this as smooth as possible. So I'll download the template here, and then I will open it up for you as well. And so what's in the template is, so you need to stick to these categories up here. But basically, name, this could be name of a client or name of a food shelf, or ABC, whatever, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to name it, doesn't matter. You can identify or de-identify, it's up to you. Street, city, state, zip code, pretty straightforward sort of stuff. And then the last part here is a latitude, longitude. So this is not something you would typically have on hand, obviously, for each plot point, but the software requires this in one way or another. So how do you get that? So the most simple, straightforward way is we've created a link to a free service where you can do that for yourself. So basically what you'll do is in here you will sort of input the address information. So I will just input an address in Woodbury, for example. This is where I used to live. And then you can so enter that address, or just copy paste, and you can just put 500 addresses in here or 1,000 addresses in here if you want. And then you can just geocode that. And then latitude, longitude appears right here too. So that way you can just copy it over to your Excel spreadsheet, and then for all of these, and then you'll have all your plot points to be able to upload to the software tool too. So Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm happy to walk you through that again. But that enables you to actually upload particular data points to the tool itself as well. So basically that's Hunter Genius in a full nutshell. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, I'm happy to for any of you to walk through any specific questions that you might have. Also, if you're having any trouble, obviously let me know, and that'll all be here for you as well. So I'll open up for questions.
Jason, Greg is just mentioning, so you must have tried it out. Don't try lots of addresses. Think app works best with small bits. Have you kind of tested it out with different groups and how quickly it can do that, or?
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, so I think I've certainly used the geocoding tab here. I mean, I've done at least 500 at a time without too much trouble. So certainly that's something that can be done fairly simply. So I think maybe when you're getting above that, and I haven't tried like 1,000 to put in here at once, that might be a bit much, but you're welcome to try. But I just know I've had pretty good success with at least 500 inputting, exporting. And then in terms of the actual mapping software itself, in terms of uploading data points, no, I mean I've that shouldn't be any trouble to upload thousands and thousands of data points to this. This is the engine behind this, which is from Carto. They do this stuff for the New York Times and other things. So they're quite their software is quite advanced in terms of uploading. If you want to upload 5,000 data points, that's not too much for this particular software.
Good, thanks. Were there other items, Jason, that you wanted to kind of highlight about the tool at all, or?
No, I think that's mostly it. So I think you can kind of see what it can do here too. As you scroll over each area here, you can see this little gray box on the right here. It kind of gives you a quick view of some of the metrics behind each of these as well. So that's also another feature that includes just to make it simpler for you to navigate it as well. But basically we've just tried to simplify the data as much as we can, and you saw what it was before, into a way that's much more user-friendly and intuitive for you. Certainly there are some steps to learn here, but I think we built something that's much more useful and targeted, and I think as we update the data in the next few months as well, that will also sort of obviously increase its usage for all of you as well too. So yeah, so that's what I would say. So, but happy to answer any other questions as well.
Yeah, there are some more. So, so Liz is wondering, would there be an option for any support to get data points geocoded? So if there were multiple food shelves that wanted to engage, and maybe they're dealing with client data, so they have thousands of addresses, is that something that you have some support to help them with?
I think if it's simple geocoding, and you need a little bit of help on that, yeah, absolutely, I can certainly lend my own sort of support to that. If you want me to aggregate things together into one spreadsheet for you, and then you can all use that. That's certainly something I could do. Just know, I think the way the tool is, like when you create a user profile, then other users can't see your stuff. I can't see your stuff either. So just know that that you're not able to sort of share your profile with others. You could create one community profile, I guess, between the three of you if you really wanted to be enterprising. But what I could do for you is if you wanted a little help to sort of geocode things, I'm happy to do that in a spreadsheet, and then I can send it back to each of you as something that you can upload to your individual user profile and take a look at it for yourself.
It does seem like there's value in thinking about almost more of a community profile as we see food shelves working together in closer collaboration in certain areas. It almost calls for, that they might be uploading multiple food shelf files to look at how their client service is going. And so So yeah, I think that would be an interesting option to explore in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
kind of maybe even allowing multiple users into a
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's a great thought. I will. I think I also want to be respectful of the privacy side of that too. So I think that's maybe where we were leaning maybe more toward earlier. But yeah, I know, fair enough. I think that sounds great. I can work with our developer on that to see maybe there's a community profile that can be sort of logged into by several food shelves to just sort of see that. So that's certainly something that could be done too. I think within the tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is making the suggestion of kind of like an MOU or privacy agreement, so some way to
Yep.
address that.
Yep.
And then, let's see, you had, a little bit further back, you had kind of mentioned around looking towards a data refresh. Could you just re-highlight and maybe if there's any additional detail around that?
Yeah, fair enough. So a lot of the so 2015 is kind of where we're thinking next. So keep in mind that the reason that's done a couple of years back, what it seems like is that's just the latest data that's available, or at least has been analyzed. So the latest census ACS 5-year data is 2015 at the moment. I think so. We can do some things to get the data maybe a little more forward if you'd like, but we try to keep things consistent to one calendar year versus having multiple calendar years in the same tool itself. So yeah, so I think we're planning to sort of update that. We have most of the spreadsheets on hand already. It's just us. They're all kind of in different formats. Some is in zip codes, some are just in school districts, and so all the analysis has to be done to translate that to all the different geographies that we have in the tool. And that's what takes the most time, is just scrubbing and analyzing and just putting all of that together. And then it's fairly simple and straightforward for us to upload that information into the tool itself once we have everything together. So that'll take a few months for us to kind of get that done with our sort of more limited resources, but that will get done this spring. So that way you'll have something in terms of the latest updated data for hunger relief.
So Greg has a question, and I'm just going to read it exactly how he put it in there because I'm not sure that I fully understand it, but you will likely understand it, Jason. So can you show how to snap map to focus area?
Snap map to focus area.
To the service area maybe, Greg? Or like the area highlighted? Yeah.
Greg, I think I can hear you. Can you talk and just walk me through what you were looking for?
Yeah, no, I was just, when I'm looking at the application and I'm looking, to a submetric or whatever, right? And there's a map underneath it.
Yep.
And I see the whole state. I just want to get to my little black box that I can barely see.
Okay. I see. So how does it sort of zoom in automatically? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, is there a trick? Maybe there's not, but
yes, no, there is actually. So interestingly enough, so like what I have was, for example, on the webinar screen here. So like I selected Woodbury, Stillwater, White Bear as your service area, and so right now it did auto zoom for me on the map itself. So how it does that is because I uploaded plot points here. That's how it triggers it to auto zoom.
Gotcha.
So unfortunately, when you just click here, I wish it would just auto zoom just to where you click.
Right.
And this is the mapping software. It just doesn't do that.
Gotcha.
But if you do upload plot points, it will auto zoom for you. Yep.
Super.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Great. Thank you. So I think it would be helpful also, Jason, if you could speak to a bit more of kind of where is this tool going forward? Will we continue to update it beyond this spring? Right now, the tool has that little beta in the corner. Is it still being piloted? Tell us a little bit more kind of about the vision for the tool and what does the future look like?
Yeah, no, great question. I think, and so I would say, we welcome feedback. I think on that too. So yeah, and I think you're right. It's it's kind of like Gmail. It's like in perpetual beta mode a little bit. But I guess we should probably pull that out now, I suppose, since it's a really live product now. But basically, yeah. So I think I welcome feedback on how often you'd like the data to be updated, and we budget it in a way to update it every other year. But if you want it every year, could it be done? Sure. I think so there are sort of I would welcome sort of what's most valuable to agencies, because I think this tool is built for agencies more or less, and for your sort of usage. And so if that's what's most useful to you, then I think we can try to figure out a way to make that work too. So I also, again, when I say perpetual beta mode, I think that also means like it's an iterative product where it can be changed, and so if there are optimizations, things you really want to see here that maybe aren't here currently, like and source information is relatively easy to put in here, but I think if there are other things that you like, man, I would really like it to do this, please let me know. I think because I think that will help us to figure out, can we spend a little bit of money to develop it further to make sure it adds more value to you as well. So that was at least the initial sort of thoughts behind that too. Things we can also add to it, perhaps, and these aren't promises so much as just ideas. So you report your monthly statistics to us. So we could incorporate those statistics into the tool and map that out for you as well. So there may be other things that you want us to sort of pull into your dashboard here. We can sort of, it doesn't have to be just a 1 year and done type of data set. We could, stream in monthly data points for you if that would be helpful. So yeah, but really kind of need feedback, I guess, from you if that's something that would be valuable. We could add capacity to the tool to be able to do that for you if it adds value for you for us to do that as well. So that's what I would add. So sorry to kind of push it on to all of you too, but we just want to make sure we're getting the right feedback from you, so that way we can make the adjustments and updates and optimizations necessary that would make it most valuable for your usage and your communities.
Michelle, I actually think I have you muted, so I'm going to try to unmute you on my end and let you, if you wanted to chat. Because you had a few questions in here, and it might work for you to just unmute yourself and talk through that. You just have to click on the green. There you go. That might not work out. So Michelle is wondering if there is a cost related to some of that kind of monthly inputting of data, and what may be the implications of choosing to do some of those things.
Yeah, I have not done any cost scenarios on that, except we require connecting the API, I guess as it's technically called, between where the data is, monthly data is currently, and then how we actually stream it to the software too. So our developer who built Hunger Genius, they're very good at making those connections, and this software sort of does that already too with the maps, you can see. So they're certainly quite skilled at making that work too. But I have not made any sort of cost scenarios as to what that would take. But if it's of value, then I think we can go down that path to explore that and figure out what that costs, and then we can take it from there.
And so is that something that really could be continued into future years, or is that just available in kind of this development stage that we're in right now, and then going forward it'll be pretty standard?
Yeah, exactly. So I think once we build it, I think so it will just go ahead basically and update that automatically. So it doesn't require a human like me to do anything unless there's a bug, that which sometimes happens because browsers get updated occasionally. Browser versions do, but basically, yeah. So it's set up in a way that's meant to be automatic and that way it doesn't require a human essentially to keep manually inputting data. It will just happen automatically.
So, okay. So I have a question from John around if they would go in and enter in client data points, and then the tool refreshes with the 2015 data, is there going to be any issues, or are you anticipating any issues?
Yeah, so no, I don't think so. So as far as I understand, that's not really too big of a concern. I think in terms of what data points you upload to it, that should stay in place without any trouble. I think what will happen is just behind, the dashboard and behind the maps, the colors will change, and the data will change there. But in terms of any plot points that you upload, no, all of that should stay in place. And if somehow that changes, we'll let you know, of course, ahead of time, so that things aren't, screwed up for you in any way. But no, I don't anticipate that being any type of concern.
Let's see. So Liz is just sharing a little bit of feedback in that having annual data would be more helpful. Hopefully I'm saying this right or kind of following your comment here. Would be more helpful to see kind of service changes or shifts year over year. So whether it's maybe just updating some of the agency data, since that can really change year over year. So I don't know if there's, that's a possibility, maybe some of it stays standard for 2 years and some of it is updated every year.
Sure. Fair enough. So I think so happy to go down that path. I think too. So that's great. And I think if that's something that would be useful and people are comfortable with, maybe the agency data is the latest data, but it's not, in terms of year, it's 2016 versus everything else is 2015. If people are comfortable with that, and frankly, if it would add more value to you, that's certainly something that could be done. It's just changing data points within the tool itself. So so thank you for that. And if others agree, I would welcome that commentary too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. And then Greg has a couple of questions. He is curious about any age sub-segments. So I think that there is some information about that in the widgets, maybe?
Yeah, the question, I guess, is, so much of our data or a lot of things are around, children, adults, or seniors, right? And wondered whether or not there's data within the data sets that you're uploading, those cuts are somehow available or envisioned in the future to become available.
Great question. So I do have a lot more, I think, now around child hunger data than perhaps we had when this was created. So, and that's also thanks to Boston Consulting Group for helping us with that. So there is data here. I'm just going to go to the webinar here again, and there's a total population widget, which does give you information about children specifically too. So it does kind of break down, here's how many children under 5 are in this particular area or under 18, I think here, how many are enrolled in college, stuff like that. So it does give you some of the demographic data for that, but again, fairly limited, but we do, in our latest data, we do have child food insecurity data now, which we didn't have at this kind of level before. So we're planning to incorporate that into the next iteration.
Can I make one other comment or thought or suggestion?
Yes.
as you go, and I can only speak for my narrow perspective, but you know, our community has 20% or more growth rates in senior populations forecast over the next 4 or 5 years. And we already know, I think from the great work that was done previously about food insecurity with senior citizens, and kind of mapped it, and we know, frankly, it's an embarrassment about how poorly we're doing in reaching that. And so I don't know if it's other data sets or other things that need, you know, to pulled in, but, and maybe there's stuff here that we just haven't seen yet to tweak, but getting a handle on that end of the age spectrum, I guess, as it relates to insecurity, food insecurity, and all that stuff, would be incredibly valuable.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, yeah, you know, not something we put a lot of work into yet, but let me, because I know there's been a fair bit of studies. I think AARP has led some of this stuff too. So there may be some mathematical models that are already there that we could just appropriate essentially, and then just have our own, you know, stats people just do it. So it could be actually straightforward or not. Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure. But let me look into that, Greg,
Sure.
and let me see what we can do. So I think that's a great question. So thank you.
And then I had one other question. I apologize again. So as you know, these are great, you know, sort of low, medium, high, right, is great stuff, right, to wrap your head around, kind of, and prioritize and all that. But there are, you know, sort of national metric standards, right? People understand food insecurity rate, right, and they understand the definition, or it's at least in theory easy to get to that understanding. Is there any thoughts to try to help use some of these things and create some standards, or you know, make it easier for folks to, you know, wrap their head around? So, you know, we have a food insecurity score of, you know, 38. I'm looking on your screen here, right?
Sure.
So, and again, I get that medium need, but for us, they're going out to either educate the public or ask for money, or both. You know, it's a little bit of, it's sort of squishy, right, for a real technical term, right, about that. So is there, and I realize not out of the chute, but any thoughts or longer term about helping, you know, create some sort of, you know, I don't know, benchmarks where people understand or make things easily comparable to other reference points? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. I think so. I think I understand kind of where you're going with it, because I think you're right. This scoring is really for like internal usage, you know, for you to focus, you might mention, versus it being for the public. Definitely not. So yeah, fair enough. You know, we could sort of rethink how we make a sort of more apple-to-apple comparison. So, for example, if food insecurity rate, if the average rate in Minnesota is for, let's say, you know, a more area like Woodbury, let's say that's like, you know, 10%, and Woodbury's at, you know, let's say 12%, and I'm just making that number up, but you know, it's certainly higher than average, you know, and so you know, as we think about you know, maybe the scoring system or something like it, we could certainly think along the lines of, you know, showing, you know, kind of where are you versus the mean of an area like yours. And that way you have something to compare to say, if you have a much higher need in this area versus others, that's something you could talk to the general public about versus it being kind of in the low, medium, high sort of scoring system that's here. Is that kind of where you're going, Greg?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's yeah, it's exactly somehow having the conversation about, you know, not only is it a sense of urgency or a sense of, you know, priority, and how do you reference that, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing, and it's not something immediate. And as an aside, this application is tremendous. I haven't played with it much, but it's huge. So these are kind of minor complaints, frankly, from my perspective. So
fair No, there are ways to make it better, Greg. So thank you, actually. So we want to make sure this is most valuable to you. So yeah. Let me put my brain to that a little bit. Maybe there's something here that we could think about. Yeah, because I think you're right. I understand that that's valuable for donors and other things
Right.
too. So I think I understand where the direction you're heading there too. So let me think about that. This may or may not be the right place for it. I don't know. But maybe yeah, let me put some thought to that and see if there's something we can do to make that helpful for you.
Great. So I'm not seeing any other questions on my end here from attendees, and we did record this, so we can send out a copy of the recording. I just have to figure out how to get it up on YouTube or up and available for you guys to view. So I'll work on that and send that out next week. There's a couple items that would be helpful if you could share, Jason, with the group, and so I can follow up with you about those specifically. And then definitely if there's questions after that, you can reply directly to Jason or touch base with him directly. I think we have an opportunity right now also to really talk internally at Second Harvest and think about how we continue to help support development of this and respond to some of those really helpful requests that you guys mentioned around how to make it more user-friendly or just a little bit more transparent about where the data is from. So thanks, Jason, for your time this morning. Thanks all of you for being part of this, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. So
Thanks.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye now.
bye.